일론 머스크가 우리가 알기로도 굉장히 상상력이 뛰어난, 그리고 그걸 어떻게 해보려는 추진력이 굉장히 강한 경영자로 알고는 있는데, 특히 이 화성에 꽂힌 거는 박사님하고의 관계에서 나왔다고 들었는데, 어떻게 처음 두 분이 만나서 화성에 대한 얘기를 나누게 되셨는지요?
Well, I think the first thing that happened was he read my book, The Case for Mars, and that got him very interested. And then the Mars Society held a fundraiser in Silicon Valley, which is where he was living in 2001. And it was $500 a plate to come and be there. And we got a check from someone for $5,000. Who is this? Elon Musk.
Oh.
We'd never heard of him. So we did some research and found out who he was. He was one of the leaders of PayPal. So I contacted him and I had a 2-hour cup of coffee with him before the event. We talked a great deal and we recruited him. He joined the board of the Mars Society. And he was on our board for a while. But then at a certain point, he said to me, look, you know, I'm not the sort of person that wants to be part of someone else's organization. I want to lead my own effort, okay? That's who I am. And I've already made all the money I could possibly want or use in my life, and I'm trying to think of what to do with my life. You should understand, this is 2001. He was 30 years old. And there were two things that he thought would be important to do, because it wasn't about money anymore. It was about doing something important, okay? And one was humans to Mars, and the other was solar energy. I argued forcefully for Mars. I said, look, solar energy, the commercial case for it is obvious. Anyone who has an idea about how to make it better or cheaper can find investors. And that will happen. The market will make that happen, and it doesn't need Elon Musk to make that happen. But Mars, you can't go to investors and tell them they'll make a lot of money by investing in Mars. Okay, that's not going to happen. So you need someone who can see the vision, who wants to do this for reasons other than making money. It needs you, okay, if this is going to happen. Now, in the end, he decided to do both, and he did the car company too. But you know what's very interesting about this? If you think of these three things that Elon Musk made his passion, Mars, the electric car, and solar energy, the two where he was successful and important were the two which were least likely to succeed. Mars, there's no business case for Mars. Electric car companies had continually failed for the past century. Where solar energy, there are a lot of successful companies in solar energy. And I think he was reasonably successful in solar energy, but he's not important in solar energy. If it was something that anyone else could see the merit of, then the field would be crowded. If it's something that required unique vision, that is where he could excel and has excelled.
교수님 혹시 일론 머스크가 그 이후에 4,500불 돌려달라는 얘기는 안 했습니까?
No, he did not. And in fact, he then, a bit later gave $100,000, which helped us build our Mars Desert Research Station. But, you know, the real contribution that he has done is not the money he's given the Mars Society, but the creation of SpaceX, which is what is going to make our dream possible.
History is going to bifurcate along two directions. One path is we stay on Earth forever, and then there will be some eventual extinction event. The alternative is to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species, which I hope you would agree that is the right way to go.
여러 명 인터뷰를 했는데
네.
항상 일론 머스크가 그 뒤에 있어요. 전기차 얘기에도 일론 머스크 나오고 우주 얘기에도 일론 머스크 나오고 뭐 그래도 대단한 영향을 끼친 사람이라는 생각이 드는 것 같아요.
분명 그 과정에서 실패하는 순간이 있었을 것 같은데 그때마다 이제 박사님께서 해주신 조언이 뭐였는지도 궁금해요.
I didn't give that much advice. And to be clear, the design of the Starship is Musk's. It's not mine. Now, the mission architecture that Starship will use to go to Mars is mine. Okay, it's known as the Mars Direct Plan, which avoids on-orbit assembly and instead goes directly to the surface of Mars, where we make our return propellant, methane and oxygen, on the surface of Mars out of local materials, and then fly directly back to Earth. Some ideas of Starship did come from me, but the Starship itself did not come from me.
화성 얘기를 많이 했는데 나사에서 이제 그런 공고가 있었대요. 그러니까 뭐 특별 훈련에 참여한 사람을 모집한다. 한 4명 정도를 뽑았는데 그게 이제 마르스디움 알파라고 그 화성을 가상으로 이제 만든 환경. 거기서 이제 고립이 되었을 때 살아나갈 수 있는 그런 능력치를 이제 좀 개발하는 시험을 하는 그런 이제 시험을 했다. 그러니까 정말로 보낼 생각을 하고 있는 거겠죠. 그래서 만약 이제 보냈을 때 거기서 어떻게 생활을 하고 적응을 할 수 있을 것인가를 이제 테스트하고 훈련을 시키기 위한.
네, 사실 1년 이상 장기적으로 화성에 좀 머물려면 아까 말씀하신 것처럼 식량에 대한 문제가 좀 해결이 되어야 되지 않을까 싶은데 현실로 이루어질 수 있을까요?
Well, sure, we can grow food on Mars in greenhouses, not out in the open. So they will want ultra-productive crops, and this will drive them to be great innovators in biotechnology, genetic engineering. The early Mars missions will probably bring their food. We'll recycle our water, but we'll bring food. If you're on Mars, you have gravity. So you don't need to have food that comes out of tubes that you squeeze. And you can cook like you can on Earth. If you actually cook foods, you can mix them in different ways and come up with a much larger variety. Bringing people to Mars who have varied skills, including varied cuisines, is a very good thing for the morale and the effectiveness of the crew.
저는 진짜 물이 제일 힘들 것 같은데 물은 계속 리사이클링해서 쓴다라고 했는데
그 빙하가 있다면서요?
네, 뭐 그걸 그러니까 결국에는 에너지원을 어떻게 찾느냐인 것 같아요.
그러니까 사실 인류 역사가 에너지를 찾아서 온 거잖아요.
그렇죠.
네, 불에서 시작을 해갖고서는 뭐 석탄에다가 뭐 석유에다가 이제 뭐 그린 에너지까지 가는 거 보면은 결국에는 그게 가장 원초적으로 필요한 거니까.
처음에 요리하면 되지. 근데 저는 그때 무슨 약간 무식하게 무슨 생각했냐면. 야, 요리할 때 그 불 산소가 많이 필요할 텐데. 근데 생각해보니까 우리는 나이 든 세대인 거야. 인덕션 같은 거 쓰면은 불 없이 에너지만 있으면 되는 거야.
불맛이 안 나.
뭘 한다면 지글지글 보글보글이라는 고정만.
이거 해줘야지
이거는 상상도 못한 거죠.
문제는 결국엔 인덕션을 움직일 또 에너지가 필요한 거니까.
에너지고 식량이고.
There's no fossil fuels on Mars except those you make with energy from something else. But Mars has got deuterium. It's got the deuterium, which is the fuel for fusion reactors, is 5 times more plentiful on Mars as it is on Earth. So I think the Martians will be the ones who develop fusion power.
화성에 이제 이주해서 살면 되게 좀 다를 것 같아요. 지구에서 사는 거하고는. 밖에 나갈 때는 막 너무 춥기도 하고 모래바람도 불고 막 이러니까 막 이렇게 다 쓰고 나가잖아요. 산소도 부족하고 하니까. 그거를 하고 매일 나갈 수 있을까? 외출을 할 수 있을까? 이거 좀 개선될 방법은 없을까요? 그런 게?
Well, right now, if you go outside on Mars, you will need to use a spacesuit. Okay. Although there are new designs of spacesuits that people are working on that will be much more flexible, that instead of using air pressure to pressurize the astronaut, they use elastic fabrics, but we can create large pressurized areas. We can create pressurized domes 100 meters in diameter, which people will be able to walk around in ordinary clothes and which will be able to grow plants. This is how we'll have our farms on Mars. And we'll be able to create underground structures comparable to large shopping malls. Now, in the distant future, when there's a large population on Mars, with lots of industry and technology, people will be able to start changing Mars itself and create a thicker atmosphere for Mars. That's called terraforming. That is for the future. But Mars was once a warm and wet planet with a thick atmosphere, and it can be made so again through human technological effort.
언제쯤 화성에 우리 지구촌 사람들이, 인간들이 가서 거주할 수 있을 걸로 예상을 하세요?
Well, I think that the first human explorers will reach Mars by the end of this decade. You know, Elon Musk says he's going to send them there by 2026. I think that's a bit optimistic, but I do think the Starship will eventually be successful and be capable of going to Mars. And then the Starships have a fairly large capacity. They'll be able to transport significant numbers of people and significant amounts of cargo, so that by another decade from now, that is by 2040, we may have a base on Mars with perhaps 1,000 people living there, and with large greenhouse domes that create enough food on Mars for them, and fairly substantial living quarters. So you'll have facilities on Mars perhaps comparable to what we have right now in Antarctica. I think it will grow fast from there. I think it will probably go up about a factor of 10 in the next decade, be 10,000 people on Mars by 2050, 100,000 by 2060.
글로벌 투자은행 모건 스탠리 분석에 따르면 우주 관련 사업 수익이 2040년까지 1조 달러를 상회할 것이라고 밝혔다고 해요.
그게 왜냐하면 돈들이 모인다는 거죠. 예를 들면 뭐 마크 저커버그라든지 빌 게이츠 이런 사람들도 뭐 스타쉽이나 이런 걸 띄우는 건 아니지만 거기에 인프라를 만드는 그런 사업에 뛰어들고 있죠. 그래서 굉장히 성장 산업일 거다라는 거에 대해서는 다 공감을 하고요.
지금 현재 이제 민간 기업들, 뭐 스페이스X라든지 버진 갤럭시라든지 뭐 블루 오리진 이런 기업들이 뛰어드는 분야는 사실 관광 쪽이거든요. 이건 뭐 그냥 돈 많은 사람들이 뭐 약간 좀 있어 보이게 즐기는 뭐 놀이다. 약간 좀 이렇게 안 좋게 보는 시각도 분명히 있어요.
Well, sure. Now, first of all, the main action here is not these billionaires flying on suborbital flights. They're launching a satellite constellation. SpaceX, in the past 2 years, has launched 1,000 satellites off of the Falcons, which cost 1/5 of what any other launch vehicle with comparable capability costs. And this is going to link the world together with 5G communication from everywhere and all this kind of stuff. This has tremendous commercial value. The entrepreneurial model has proven to be of great value in bringing down the cost of space launch and bringing down the cost of spacecraft, satellites. So I think that South Korea, in developing its space program, should think of how it could help, how its space agency could act to help grow entrepreneurial space companies. Okay, there should be a South Korean SpaceX. Okay.
그러니까 그동안 그 나사에서 보통 우주 개발을 거의
그렇죠.
장악을 했잖아요.
네.
근데 나사는 국제 우주 정거장 같은 것들을 상업적으로 이용도 하면 안 된다. 그다음에 뭐 영리 목적으로 하면 안 된다. 연구 참여도 배제하고 뭐 이랬는데 요즘 많이 바뀌었어요.
약간 투 트랙 좀 비슷하게 가야 되지 않을까 싶어요. 왜냐하면 이제 우주 항공이라는 부분이 국가 안보랑 정말 정말 직결이 되어 있는 부분이거든요. 전쟁이 일어나면은 통신위성부터 먼저 끊는 게 가장 급선무이다시피. 그렇기 때문에 이제는 국가 안보의 측면에서 봤을 때는 굉장히 중요한 부분이고, 그래서 이제 지금 미국하고 중국하고 우주 경쟁이다, 뭐 우주 전쟁 얘기까지 나오고 있는 거거든요. 그래서 그거는 사실 또 그 부분이고, 민간 쪽에서 또 발전을 이룰 수 있도록 약간 생태계 이렇게 만들어주는
그렇죠.
게 약간 좀 투트랙이 돼야 되지 않나.
제가 한 가지 마지막으로 궁금한 거는, 정말 우리가 화성에 가서 살 수 있는 환경이 됐을 때 우리 인류의 미래는 과연 어떨까, 어떤 모습으로 살아가게 될지 그런 그림이 있으시면 좀 얘기해 주세요.
First of all, I think we're going to see a lot of different kinds of new societies on Mars. People sometimes ask me, what will the government be on Mars? I think there'll be lots of different governments on Mars, different city-states probably okay, founded by people with different ideas on what the best kind of government should be. And not just the best ideas on how to succeed commercially, because in order to grow, a Martian city has to attract settlers, okay? They're going, in other words, the Martian cities that grow the most will be the ones that attract the most settlers. So this is why, for instance, I don't think that any of these Martian cities are going to be tyrannies, because no one would want to move there, okay? And I think the Martians, okay, they'll try all kinds of things. They're not going to be smarter than us. They're just going to be people who have a chance to try things different than us. And some of those things will be smarter than the way we do things. And, you know, so that's how this is going to go.
네, 긴 시간 재미있는 얘기 나눠주셔서 감사드리고 교수님 새 책 나오면 가장 먼저 챙겨보도록 하겠습니다.
고맙습니다.
네, 고맙습니다.
You're most welcome.